Roy Brothers Podcast. Look who we got on the couch tonight.
Tony Max is in the house tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
You guys, honestly, you're in for a treat. Tony is hilarious. He's a
Thank
cool
you.
guy. This guy's dedicated to the craft. He writes down everything. He's got his notebook, everything. This guy is good. This guy is dedicated. And I love seeing him go up on stage every week, and I'm happy to have him here. So we'll just get right into it.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you both for having me.
I appreciate
Awesome
you coming
to have
on.
you here, Tony.
You know, Tony's always sitting in the open mics. This guy is doing everyone that I've gone to, he's there. You know, so, appreciate you making time for us.
Thank you very much. I'm skipping one tonight just to be here, but this was very important for me to be here with you guys, and I do appreciate you having me.
Of course.
And I do like to perform as often as I can.
Yeah.
3, 4, sometimes 5 performances a week.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
I feel as though it's important. Yeah, I like to double down, and
is.
I like to perform as often as I can. I think it's very important.
Exactly. And like I said, you're dedicated, hilarious, and we'll you guys will hear about that.
Oh,
if
shucks.
you're watching this, you'll see it. You know, if you guys watch the video as we go on. But, I really want to highlight to start off is like, how did you get into comedy? What got you your start?
Well, I wanted to make comedy groupies a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. It's not. I didn't get into
Let's
comedy
make
to
it
get.
happen.
I didn't get into comedy to get chicks. That's why I got into music.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I wanted some brand new clothes in a big fat place on your rock and roll TV.
Yeah, man.
No. It's like what Hunter S. Thompson said. If you're going to be crazy, you have to get paid for it. Otherwise, you're going to get locked up.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
You like that?
I do.
Well, in all reality, it came out of practicality. I'm not a name dropper, but I did see a female comic's house.
Mm-hmm.
Her beautiful $20 million home in southern Los Angeles.
Wow.
And she's not exactly Lucille Ball.
So, Tony, you
she's
saw
not-
this on the internet?
No,
Real life?
Person.
no, I didn't say that either.
Oh, man.
A lot of
All
questions.
right. Keep your secrets.
But it's a beautiful $20 million home
That's
in
awesome,
southern
though.
Los Angeles. And I said, but she's not Lucille Ball. In fact, she's not that funny. And, I hate to say this, but, I look around and I see some of the competition that's out there, and I see some of the people doing comedy these days, and the greats are gone. And some people, it's a $20 million house. And I'm like, well, that's nice. You know what I mean? Not to sound condescending, but a lot of her act isn't what I would, it's not
You wouldn't expect when you saw the house.
I was blown away, and I was like, there's so much opportunity
Yeah.
here for people that have, if you want to be creative and use your imagination. But to give you more of a real answer, I think those are some of my funny ones. But
Yeah.
maybe that the best revenge is living well.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a coping mechanism from a couple decades living life on planet Earth. I don't
Yeah.
know. A list of women that I'd like to meet and date, speaking of comedy groupies, would be Chloe Fineman, Heidi Glasser, Bianca De La Garza, Mariah May, Blake Lively, Margot Robbie, Patsy Kensit, and Cindy Crawford. They say gentlemen prefer blondes, and so do I.
Yeah.
It's true. Cindy's not a blonde. That's a testament to how powerful and strong.
You're bringing
and
out the
beautiful
A-team
she
on
really
that
is.
list.
Yeah, she's Cindy Crawford. Yeah. Dude, you kidding me? All right, so here's the real answer. I've been a character my entire life. I've been told that a lot. You are a character, okay? And my background is one of a huge Disney/Warner Brothers kid who loved silly symphonies, merry melodies growing up. I loved cartoons. They were some of my first impressions.
Yep.
Oh dear. Yeah. But I have a huge personality, and a lot of that comes through in my larger-than-life aspect of my personality. Okay, and I'm type A, and I'm a very unique individual, as you both know. But I've been fortunate enough to have been around some very A-list people in my life, some from show business, and there is a part of the entertainment industry and showbiz in my personal life and background. Humor and a sense of it has always been a part of my life and my family,
Yep.
because laughter can be a very powerful thing.
Absolutely.
And sometimes in life, it's the only weapon we have. Who said that? Please, who said that? That's Roger Rabbit. I don't know anybody else that can give you
I
a
didn't
Hunter
know
S.
that.
Who framed
yeah.
him? Who framed him?
I don't know. The same guy who gave you a Hunter S. Thompson quote and a Roger Rabbit reference in one fucking fell swoop.
Tony Max. Yep.
I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. The sinners are much more fun. Yeah. But in all reality, I was born with this face. Okay? This is the way God made me. And it's a part of who I am, and I have no choice. It's right out there. I have to face it, and I have no control over that. But I do have control over what does or doesn't come out of my mouth and how I present myself, etc. So I was a bright student with an artistic, creative streak and a wildly overactive imagination and a big mouth. It's my favorite weapon.
Yeah.
I have an acid tongue when I choose to use it. Yeah. But that mouth has sometimes gotten me in trouble, so why not capitalize on it?
Yep. Use it to your ability, you know?
Yes, indeed. Well, guys, I don't like bullies. I never have. And we talked about this earlier off camera, but I said I've run into a few of them on the local comedy scene, and that's okay because it fuels my fire. It gives me material, and it lets me know I'm doing something right. I was very proud when I got my first hater because I'm different, and I'm doing things different on stage. And I have no problem sacrificing myself for the audience's entertainment. And my audience, my fan base knows that I'm genuine. And I have integrity, and that goes a long way. And I've learned that as I learn and practice the performance art aspect. We're gonna have to edit that out. I'm sorry.
Aspect.
There's no editing on the Roy brothers.
Yeah, you're all right.
We'll have to edit that
Just
out. But
kidding.
I've learned that if you're genuine, people can tell, and if you have integrity, people sense it. And I've learned as I practice the performance art aspect of this craft, I challenge the status quo. I challenge their way of doing things. And I do an amazing job. I do a wonderful job. But it makes me a threat. And I understand the habit I've adopted for being unpredictable on stage makes me a loose cannon to some of the comedic community and wildly entertaining the audience. I do different sets all the time.
Yeah.
People really never know what to expect. And people have told me that you're always doing different stuff. I try to stay current. I try to talk about things that are happening now.
Yep.
Like Joey Diaz, the church, what's happening now. It's like, I don't want to be stale. I don't want to repeat myself too often.
Yep.
And it's a competitive sport, and we talked about this. And I know that because I played a lot of sports. And I had an athletic background as well. But, I'm rare in the comedy world. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm not too bad looking. So I don't blame people for not liking me.
What sports did you play?
Basketball, baseball, dude, you name it. If you can, yeah.
Nice. We played basketball growing up,
I love
obviously.
But, because of that, it's like I have a sense of fair play.
Yeah.
And sportsmanship that I bring to the table and to the stage as well. I punch up, never down.
Yep, that's a thing I've heard too. Always
Yeah.
punch up, never
Yep,
punch
I've
down.
noticed that about you, Tony.
Thank you. I never pick on anyone. I don't like to isolate anyone. Comics, and definitely not my beloved audience. I love my audience. And I never call anyone out on stage, in front of anyone. If I have something to say to somebody, maybe I'll pull you aside, say it privately, professionally. But unlike some of those other guys that I won't mention, no matter what they say about me, I'm not going to get down to that level for 3 reasons. Okay. Number 1, you don't get any of my stage time. Okay. Number 2, it's unprofessional. And unlike some of the other comics, I have class. But I don't want to go down to that level and compromise myself and who I am with the character that I've created. I don't get down and dirty. I don't like to fight dirty. I'm not a clown. I'm here to make you laugh. I'm here to amuse you.
Truth.
I don't tell jokes. I tell the truth.
One of my favorite movies.
Thank you. As if I had anything to do with Goodfellas. But I tell the truth, and that's risky business. And it's not always easy to resist the temptation, but it will, however, I believe, deliver you from evil. You don't want to become the thing that you despise in order to gain favor and take cheap shots at people. It's not a popularity contest, especially for the other comics. It's about the audience. I'm here for the audience. This is comedic entertainment. And it's all part of the act. It's all part of the show. Hence, Tony Max protects my privacy, my career, my family, and gives me total freedom and artistic creative license to say and do whatever I want. And that's a very powerful thing. So I have a responsibility to live up to that every time I perform, both on and off stage. I believe. It's important to keep that in perspective. It protects you. It protects you from yourself, perhaps, and that famous mouth of mine getting carried away, saying things that I can't unsay.
You're a mysterious dude, man.
I try.
In a good way.
Thank you. Well, Tony Max is a character. It's a persona, and it's a stage presence with a life of mind of his own. But it's important to keep that in perspective so I can maintain my personal, my private, and my professional life and keep them separate.
That's a good way to put it. I think that's great. You highlight that.
Thank you. But
like
it's also a way to keep myself and the character separate, so I don't get lost in the character. I love Kurt Cobain. Look what happened to Kurt. Some people get lost in it. They get wrapped up in it. They lose themselves because they forget where the line is. And that's a very dangerous thing. So, also, I love the movie Frankenstein. Okay. So Boris Karloff, he was brilliant. And his humanity in that film really came through. He wasn't the villain in that movie. Dr. Frankenstein was.
Yeah.
But you got to keep control of the character so he doesn't turn on me or get away from me. But with that being said, there's a lot of Max in me. And there's a lot of me in Max. There has to be for it to work. Otherwise, it wouldn't be real. Right? And how much myself I give and to what extent or where I draw the line is up to me and no one else. But but I won't let anyone else interfere with my process, my writing, my performance style. I can't afford to, and I won't allow anyone else's outside influence. I won't question myself or my instincts, because then what would be the point?
Yep.
To allow others to effectively do my writing for me,
Mm-hmm.
to take unsolicited advice, inevitably becoming a copy of other comics. I'm not interested in that. I told myself a few things when I started. I'm not messing around here. You know, I won't allow anyone to psych me out or get in my head, take my eye off the ball for a split second, because then all will be lost. Why does he do impressions? Why do you tell stories? Why does he create personas? Why do you drop so many references? Why is he doing long form material anyway? Who does this guy think he is? I'm not you.
Yep.
I'm Tony
Different.
Max, and you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tony Max is saying do whatever I see fit, and he's brave, and he does not care what you think of him.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in him, and I believe in myself, and I believe in what I'm doing, but I'm fully committed to my performance, and it's the NBA. You got to play hard to go home.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But everything is on the table. The sky's the limit. Nothing's off limits. I do have a responsibility to maintain complete artistic and creative control of that because I'm creating something, and you either get it or you don't.
Yep.
9 out of 10 people love me, and most of you will, but I'm not stopping now that I've got a taste for it. You guys have seen me on stage. Train kept it rolling
Plenty of
We
times.
have.
all
Yep.
night long.
Bringing
Yeah.
the
That's
energy.
funny.
Oh, I'm like the young people. They got the energy.
Yeah.
It's the Tony Max Express, and it's leaving the station. We want you on board, America. That's
Yep.
right. Yeah, but you've seen me on stage. I'm a locomotive.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I like most people to be on board. Everyone's welcome to join. Come join the party. You know, it's an avalanche of comedy chaos. It's a whole lot of laughs. A few years from now, I might be light years from where I am, and people on the local scene might be starting to tell those I knew him when stories, you know, with the inevitable gossips and innuendos. But it's pretty much, you know, I'm not going to let anyone, I'm not stopping or changing what or how I'm doing for anyone. Lead, follow, or get out of my way. Little Kim said, I put 100% in every line that I drop. It's true.
Yeah, I can see it, man. It reflects in
Thank you.
your attitude. You know, even just being here, you're dedicated to it. You know, and it's great.
Well,
It shows.
I don't take myself too seriously, but I take comedy and what I'm doing very seriously. You know what I mean? It means something to me.
Exactly.
And I'm not just here for, you know, to play to each other and get some laughs off each other. It's like, you know, I did that in high school. You know, it's like I'm a big boy now. It's like there's a lot of little boys club antics going on in some of the circles in the comedy scene, and that doesn't interest me very much. I'm here for the audience. And again, they're not to use like a sports analogy, but you visualize the win, you impose your will on the game, and you assert yourself. You guys play pool?
Yeah.
Suck at it. I try.
Yeah.
I love to play pool. And you know why I'm a good pool player? I never entertain the possibility that I could lose.
Yep.
Okay? No, I'm serious.
You just
I
don't
won't
need
even
to
allow
win.
I won't allow myself to think of the word. I don't even know what it means. You know what
The
I mean?
word lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that I'm going to make every single shot every single time, and I usually do. Okay? I know I'll miss 100% of the shots I don't take.
I was just about to say
It's a
that.
Gretzky quote.
I was
It's
just
true.
about to say that.
It's very
That's
true.
awesome.
But, you know, I never second guess myself, my ability, or my instincts, and that's applicable to this, and that's how I crush it. I'll tell people I'll play anyone, anywhere, anytime. You know what I mean? But if I'm going to do something, anything, I'm going to do it right, or I'm not going to do it at all.
Exactly.
I don't dial it in. I don't do it halfway. I'm fully committed to being the absolute best that I can be at any task, project, contest, etc. But I'm very competitive, and I don't want to say I'm not. You know, I'm not that I'm a huge fan of him, but Steve Martin said, "Be so good they can't ignore you."
Yep.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. But I'm talking way too much.
You're fine.
Steve Martin's a funny dude.
He's brilliant. He's a
And,
brilliant comedic actor, and there's a difference between people that are naturally funny and someone who's,
He's
I think, a comedic actor.
Well,
you know?
I think his style would be comedic acting, correct?
I believe so. I mean,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion, you know, but I'm not a comic. I just play one in real life.
Yeah.
I think I'm more of a writer, you know, if anything,
like
or a
that.
comedic actor. But this is performance art, is what I do.
It is, correct.
You know.
So, comedy to you, from just hearing you talk, I'm just putting it out there. It sounds like it's about you just being, you're doing. Oh, I want to recap what you just talked about. You're doing your own thing.
Yes,
You're not
sir.
worrying about what else is going on the sidelines. You're focusing on the end goal, and the end goal to you is you want people to see you, and you know, and you just want to have fun with it. And you're just writing it and enjoying your process, and you know, going kind of how wherever it takes you, right?
Pretty much. I mean, I do enjoy comedy, but there's more to it than that. Are you segueing into what is comedy to me?
Yeah, what's comedy to you?
That's a brilliant segue.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful segue.
You're riding that segue like
It
you're a
was
mall
such a
cop, bro,
it
with
was
that
such
mustache.
a beautiful segue.
It's
Oh,
like Paul Blart's
cop
skinny
stash,
version.
you know?
yeah, I feel like I got pulled over.
Yeah.
I felt like that was coming next.
Yeah, you
Like,
got pulled over in a
out of the
fucking
car,
mall.
Max. Out of the car.
Actually, this is an undercover sting. I was kidding.
Well, I'm glad you asked me that,
Yeah.
and I really am because I did prepare some notes, and I'm not reading a script. This isn't a performance, but I wanted to stay on track and not
Yeah,
lose
of
my
course.
place. I have a tendency to ramble.
Me too.
So what is comedy to me?
Yeah, what's comedy to you, man?
Well, there's a reason that the court jester was the only person allowed to speak truth to the king without being fear of being executed. Okay? It's important to be a voice of and for the people, I believe. And speaking truth to power is risky business. Okay? But I believe it's a comedian's job and responsibility to be that voice, to hold a mirror up to society and make it look at things that they maybe not necessarily want to look at, or show them things from a different perspective that makes people say, I never looked at it that way before. Kind of like a 3D art, piece, because this is performance art, and the greats are gone. If George Carlin, Sam Kinison, and Richard Pryor were here today, what do you think they would have to say about the current state of the world we're living in?
Oh, they would have a ball with it. They would, especially George Carlin, would have a field day with what's going on.
Do you think they would be doing 8th grade locker room toilet humor? Or do you think they'd be doing social commentary?
Social commentary.
Exactly. Correctamundo.
Yep.
I do black comedy, which traces its roots back to ancient Greece and Aristophanes, as opposed to blue comedy, which traces its roots back to The Simpsons. Doe. And a lot of people like The Simpsons, and I'm not too highbrow or above that. I believe that bedrooms and bathrooms have doors for a reason.
Well, let me stop you there. There's a
ahead.
I think there's a market for both.
Of course.
Because you also got to understand a lot of people don't want to hear like
An Aristophanes reference.
I guess they don't. I can't even pronounce. I can't even spell that. But
Yeah, it was
no,
easy.
I guess the core argument is like, all right, I'm coming to hear comedy. I don't want to hear political crap. You know what I mean? Or philosophical crap. Even though I do love a good George Carlin. That's for sure.
You've heard me imitate Donald Trump many times.
I did.
Have you ever heard me get quote unquote political?
No.
People that love him love to hear him. People that hate him love to laugh at him. But
That is 100% correct.
I'm neutral. I never say one way or
That
another
is
what I
so
think.
clever.
You don't.
I'm here to entertain you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And a lot of people, when I was saying about The Simpsons, I think anyone can do toilet humor. It's too easy.
I agree with that.
And that's why children do it.
100% agree with that.
Jerry Seinfeld and Howard Stern were in his show Comedians in Cars having coffee, and Seinfeld said it to Stern, and this is before he was ultra conservative, and Howard Stern was arguably the most controversial shock jock in the nation, and they both were in agreement. It's too easy. Anyone can do that. Yeah. And I said, it's much harder to use your imagination and be creative and create quote unquote clean content. I don't talk about sex or drugs any more than I have to. I'll dance around the subjects. I'll flirt with them a little bit, but I don't get graphic because I'm a gentleman. And it's more palatable, it's more amusing, and it's more marketable, and I think more entertaining. Yeah. You know what I mean? But comedy's not for the faint of heart. It's a tough business, show business, and you got to be brave and you got to have a thick skin because fortune favors the bold. And these days, the world that we're living in is a cold, scary place. The way I see it, you have a platform, you have a stage, you have a microphone and an audience, and yet most comics or some comics lack the courage to say anything of substance. It's easier to do toilet humor, but there's a lot of guys and girls doing that, and they think that shock value is funny, and I personally disagree. I think mostly it's gross and it turns people's stomachs. I don't think being disgusting is entertaining, not when there's so much going on in the world that affects all of us.
Matt, nix that fucking toilet joke you had.
No, don't. But what do I know? This is just my opinions.
I'm just fucking with him.
But I started out doing
I totally get that. We actually, me and Tony had a great conversation one night. It's probably in the middle of an open mic, but we were talking about the clean versus dirty comedy, and I 100% agree with you. I think I'm dirty, definitely dirty, but I also like to lean into the clean. You know what I mean?
Lenny Bruce talked about clean and dirty.
Lenny Bruce.
So did Carlin. These are
right.
These are clean words. These are dirty words. They're just words.
I like both, but 100% agree that I would want to say that every comic out there should have a clean set ready to go.
Yeah.
If your mom was there,
Absolutely.
or you wanted
Oh,
to
she
play
is there.
a
She was
corporate
there. Remember
gig,
that?
Yeah.
I do remember that, and I apologize to both your mom and your dad.
Please don't.
Your dad was great. I asked him if he was in the band Bread.
Yeah.
Where he was in the
Or
band.
Chicago or
Yeah,
something.
like, are you the bassist for the Eagles?
Yeah.
Your dad
You got a
came
kick
right
out
out
of
and said
that.
he was awesome. He was so cool. But I
Yeah.
asked you if it was okay first out of respect, because I'm not here to pick
Right.
on someone.
Absolutely.
It's good natured. It's coming from a good place, and I think people can tell, and that's part of the being genuine. It's like, I'm not here to hurt your feelings or to pick on you, because I don't like bullies. But I'm, and there's a lot. When I started, I said there's a lot of guys and girls doing that kind of stuff, so I want to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, guys, I go outside the box. Okay, I break the fourth wall. I do a lot of wacky stuff.
Yeah.
You guys ever heard anybody else doing a Biggie Smalls bake sale? You heard anybody else?
No, I've also never heard anyone have a comedic WWE match either. That was
The
pretty good.
Comedy Royal Rumble.
That was
DMX
amazing.
rapping at an open mic.
Literally got a standing ovation from me.
Rewriting the lyrics to Prince and Pink Floyd when I hosted, just to fit a comedy setting. Like, I'm trying to do something different because I like to have fun. I like to get silly and give people a great show and have a good time, because that's the point, right?
Yep.
And you think I'm Looney Tunes? That's fine. Why? Because I'm original and I have a different style and I take a different approach. I like to entertain people.
Yeah.
I want to make them think, smile, maybe forget about life for a while, even if it's just that 5 minutes. Maybe it gives somebody a little hope or amusement by poking fun at the absurdity of life. And the world we live in our modern times, if that means laughing at me or with me, so be it.
And I think that's what comedy is in a way. It's like, the way I see it is, it's like, you know what? There's enough crap going on in the world today. Let's go and laugh. You forget about what's
release.
going on.
And that's why certain subject matter I don't find to be appropriate or entertaining to discuss, because it might be personal and hurtful to somebody. And they didn't come there tonight to hear about ugly topics that have, you shouldn't be talking to a microphone.
All week, right?
Yeah, or things that are personal. It's like, I come correct. I'm well prepared. I look the part. I do impressions. I talk the talk and I walk the walk. I write my tail off. And I'm dedicated to comedy and entertaining anyone who needs it to escape for 5 minutes. And maybe it's me, maybe it's you, maybe it's all of us. Who am I talking about? Tony Max, the one and only, yours truly, often imitated,
I just
never
after all that,
duplicated,
dude,
man.
this banana seems kind of fucked up.
No, it's all right. But
Tony, I'm just messing with you.
no,
bro.
it's all good. But I can say anything you can't, and a voice for the people. It's like Working Class Hero, some John Lennon stuff, and it's like, that's right. But that's why I'm Tony Max and you're not.
And I love the originality and stuff like that. And
Thank
you were
you.
kind of, segueing too. It's like you were talking about where Rob mentioned the Royal Rumble, the comedy, the open mic Royal Rumble, I call it.
Yep.
And it was cool because in a selfish way, it was kind of like, I think Rob could agree, maybe if you want to chime in on this, but it was like, it felt like it was for us that night. In a way, it was like, it was because all about all the comedians that were there.
It pretty much did.
And it was nice. And dude, honestly, it was one of my favorite bits because there's
Thank
like
you.
everyone was included. And it was like, everyone loved it. And that crowd, dude, open mics can be kind of tough because sometimes there's only a smaller crowd, a lot of people looking over their notes, or, a lot of people by a certain time are like kind of itching to get out of there. They're kind of tired or they're a couple of beers in, and it's like, you woke that whole place up.
Thank you.
And I don't know if Rob's got like any comment on that too, but that was really cool.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I appreciate it, and it was for everybody. Did you have?
Rob had fun with it. I know he liked it.
I know you liked it.
My God.
Yeah.
I think that's my favorite that
Being
you've
creative.
done so far.
I was sitting home on a Sunday night and I was watching this best of the '90s WWE stuff, and I got to thinking.
Well, that was the best. First of all, that was the best era ever of WWF.
Yes.
Dude, Mankind with his sock.
Right.
Fuck that World Wildlife Foundation.
New world order.
Yeah.
But I said, if it is a competitive sport, and I said, what if this was a Royal Rumble? And I started thinking about the different comics and their personas, their personalities, and I said, who would be a good guy? Who would be a bad guy? Would you fight dirty? Would you fight clean? Who would sneak attack you? Who'd have a steel chair? And this is just using your imagination where it's like, I could talk about my bathroom habits and my girlfriend's hoo-ha all night. I'm not there to do that because I think it's basic, and I think it's more entertaining and it's more challenging, and you get more out of it the more you put into it. So it's like, I don't want to do lazy comedy. And when Steven D'Annunzio with the steel chair, let freedom ring, I was like, that was great. And I'm just being silly. And when I hosted, I wrote 21 different personalized intros for different comics who have been cool to me, who've been kind and supportive, which most 8 out of 10 guys are, and girls. But I said, this is a way for me to highlight their character, their persona, their comedic style, their personality in a way that's professional and kind of builds them up. And someone's called it a roast, and I said, I didn't roast anyone when I did the Royal Rumble.
It's a good thing. It's funny you bring that up, because as you're saying this, I was thinking to myself, is it could have been seen as a roast. It didn't feel like a roast. It wasn't a roast.
Exactly.
I don't know, man. I think you did a great job with that.
Thank you very much.
It was really good.
Yeah,
you guys were in there. I called you guys because
the litigators.
The litigators. Yeah, that's right.
That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, you call us the litigators, which is funny.
Like the British Bulldogs, they
Yeah.
were brothers, and the Bushwhackers. Well, you guys are the litigators because you're lawyers.
Because it's funny, but it's like to put it out there with just to put. So Rob actually, Rob works.
Don't do this at home, kids.
Outside of the out of that realm. So I work for the law firm. I use that as my joke slot. You know what I mean? And I think it's funny that you said the litigators for me and Rob. I appreciate that.
I like it. You can lump me in with a law firm. I mean, I'm
Well, that's how I knew. Like
I'll
I
take
had
the
to do
lawyer
something
title.
relative to you to make it real,
That
to
was
make
funny.
it work.
Yeah.
And because it's something from real life, you kind of cross that threshold and go through the looking glass or through the mirror, and it's like you do work in the legal community, so it made sense, but it also made it tangible and real. Like you could identify it or you could relate to it, so it made it funnier, in my opinion.
So kind of looking at that set with with the Royal Rumble of comedy at the open mic, right? So my question kind of segue is like, how do you come up with that act, or how do you come up with these jokes? Like if it was the Royal Rumble, or I've heard you do impersonations of I'm blanking right now, but you do the Randy
Macho Man Randy Savage.
You do the Trump one, but you said it's neutral, which is great.
Yeah.
And then you also did the DMX one. So how do you come up with that? That's the next question for you.
Well,
is like, how do you get into all that? And you use sunglasses and stuff too, which is great. Like, how do you get into that?
Are you in a roundabout way asking what his writing process is?
I guess I would come after if he wants to comment on that.
All right.
So,
all right. So I think that's good. Answer Matt's question, and then after him answer my question. What does your writing process look like?
if you're open to
It's
share.
like the U.S. Open.
Ding, 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 ding.
All right, my writing process. Nobody gets to see the wizard. Not nobody, not know how. That's for me to know and you to find out. I write a lot, and a lot of times there's a lot of editing. People think that this isn't a manifesto. People they'll say, "Oh, I have a joke about it." This is a weapon, and you can't judge a comic by the size of his notebook. But I got a big one. And the idea
the pen is mightier than the sword, my lord.
Some of it's free form, some of it's stream of consciousness, but sometimes I'll write in script form. Sometimes I give myself stage direction. I'll give myself cues. But it starts with an idea. It always starts with an idea. I'll write down the idea. Sometimes I'll have the idea and I'll write half of it in my head before I even commit it to pen and paper.
Yeah.
But it's important for me to do that. So this is a roadmap so I don't lose my place. And I don't always memorize it verbatim because it has to be conversational and organic. Otherwise it feels scripted and it feels flat. But a lot of times I'll give myself a very deliberate delivery of what I want to do, like the Royal Rumble or when I did DMX. Now that came out of necessity.
Yeah.
A lot of things that I do come out of necessity. I had a cold. I had a sore throat. I almost lost my voice. Perfect for DMX.
Yeah. Yes.
And I started
sound great in the mic.
and I was listening to a lot of DMX. And I thought MAX, DMX, and I started playing with it. It was just like when I did the Prince thing, or I did the Pink Floyd thing, and Biggie Smalls. That was another idea. I know Biggie loves food, and I said, what if Biggie Smalls had a bake sale? What if he was working with the Girl Scouts? He's 50 years old. He's got kids, and he has a bake sale. Gather around, children. And now I said to myself, well, Biggie, I'm watching your Versace shades clocking you. So I said, well, this gives me an excuse to wear my sunglasses, which is also out of necessity. A lot of people, who's this super cool Joe Cool guy with his shades all the time? I have chronic migraine. A lot of times we're in these venues where there's lighting and sound, and sometimes it's a strobe effect, sometimes it's color lighting. And a lot of the venues we, perform in are wonderful venues, but the first time I did it was out of necessity. My head was splitting, and I put my shades on, and one of the comics was like, why are you wearing your shades? I'm like, I'm getting a migraine. So in order to perform, sometimes I perform in I perform as often as I physically can, sometimes in a lot of pain. And if, I throw my shades on, they're polarized, they block the light, they block the blue light, and they help. Like these. And, brand sponsorships are always nice. I like free sunglasses. America, send me some shades. I will plug your products. That's right. I am shameless. But free sunglasses are nice.
Yes.
And again, a lot of the stuff just comes out of necessity. But the ideas, they just come from, things I see in life or my own experiences are just basically out of my own head.
Yeah.
You were gonna ask about props. Now I said I'm not a prop comic, and I don't want to get pigeonholed or typecast as anything, which is why, as much as I like doing impressions and things like that, I don't want to be the impression guy. I don't want to be the prop guy. But there is something I can tell you about. There's a time I get to spend some time with Dan Aykroyd, and I'm not a name dropper, but I can talk about this. And it was a really cool thing where we spent some time together, and I had a chance to kind of pick his brain. And I remember looking at him and telling him, I said, I'm not going to ask you about him. I said, but I love him. Me and my friends, we can't get enough. We're watching Animal House, we're watching the Blues Brothers, and he looks at me.
This is going. Yep.
He looks at me. He's like, yeah, I love him too. And I miss him. And I was like, when I was a teenager, I grew up in the golden age of comedy.
Yep.
And I spent a lot of time in different areas at NBC. I used to go to Conan's show a lot when he taped at NBC. After the 12:30 spot, after the Tonight Show when Leno still had it.
Yep.
And 8H where they have Saturday Night Live. And again, I'm not a name dropper, but I was a teenager and I was very young when I met Conan, and he was really kind to me and really cool with me. And so was Dan Aykroyd. And my brother wasn't around at the time. You guys are brothers, as you know. My brother had to work. He couldn't come. He couldn't be there with me. And I asked Dan. I said, and this was after some lady gave me a very thing. Don't ask him to sign anything. Don't ask him to sign it. And I'm like, after talking to him about John, and I said, we had a conversation, and I said, my brother couldn't be here. Would you mind signing something for him?
Yep.
He's like, sure, kid. All Chicago, straight, sure, kid. That's a very much a Chicago thing. They call everybody kid in Chicago. If you know this. So, I pull out my old VHS copy of Ghostbusters.
That's awesome.
We had the Belushi 2-pack, so he signs that, and he signs the Blues Brothers one, but he has it's 1984 Columbia Pictures. It's black and red with the white lettering. They all look the same back then. One of the first VHS probably came out. And Dan picks it up, he looks at it, flips it over. Well, you've been hanging on to this for quite some time, haven't you? I'm like, ever since I was 5.
Yeah.
And he signs it right in the middle of the Ghostbuster logo. And now he's sitting there, and I'm like, I ask you something. And he kind of looks at me, he's like, sure, what? At the end, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, what was that stuff? And this is why the props, I'm taking a long way around here, but he kind of cocks his head and looks at me, and he's got his shades on, and we took a picture, and I'm like, wait, I put my shades on. I'm doing the Blues Brothers thing with him, and I'm like, he cocks his head at me, he's like, you really want to know?
Yeah.
He didn't want to tell me the truth about Santa. He was giving me an out. That's the magic of Hollywood. That's the dream. That's the Disney. That's the pixie dust. And he's like, do you really want to know? And I was like, when am I ever going to get another chance to find out? I'm like, yeah. And he kind of looks around, and he pulls me in, and he whispered it to me. Like it was a secret.
Yeah.
And but he told me, don't tell anybody. But at that moment, he's basically saying, do you want to believe that it's Stay Puft Marshmallow for the rest of your life? Or do you really want to know what it was?
Yeah, right. You want the magic behind it,
but
right?
that makes it real for people. So again, that is important to me. Like I have this joke that I do, and I do actually.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
So what was it?
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I told
the magic that's in behind it.
The deal was, he said you can't tell anybody. He's like, I'll tell you, but
just
keep
testing
it to
you.
yourself.
I appreciate that integrity.
Dan Aykroyd, I don't want to piss off Dan Aykroyd.
No. And before
Mr. Aykroyd, thank you very much. We love you, and please don't
Mr.
come after me.
Yeah.
No, oh my gosh.
Before we switch subjects to what fucking movie was Dan in on Wednesday? He was like it was like a noir thing, right? He was God, was he?
You got me. I'm a Blues Brothers
cop named Wednesday, right? Oh my God, what is that?
Is he standing there with the coat on?
No, he just goes, my name is Wednesday. The dame came in. She was a dime. It was a Thursday.
I'm supposed to know all these references.
Holy shit, wait a second. It's a Friday. You know what I mean? Dan Aykroyd played that character.
The first time I used a prop in my act, it was something on necessity. I was talking about Mario and Luigi and how they were the first crypto guys, and how they were big into crypto, and that they've been mining their own Bitcoin since the 1980s. And I got some laughs, and I said, "Yeah, you think I'm kidding? Check this out."
That's funny.
And I pulled this out. Let's zoom in there for a little.
Was...
Woo!
Yeah.
It's Mario Crypto. And people are looking at it going, where'd you get this? Is this real? I'm like, yeah,
Can I check it out?
this is worth $57,000 online. It's totally useless.
Look at that.
It's worthless.
All right.
Yeah.
I like
But it makes it real. You can touch it. You can feel it.
Yeah,
It's
I love
tangible.
that,
And
dude.
it's like, is Max joking around? Is he serious? Is he kidding? Maybe I am. Maybe
Bro, I don't
I'm
even
not.
know anymore, dude.
Maybe that's part of the
Yeah, right.
maybe that's part of the gag. Another one that I had was I said to Lucas Estrella, who be on the lookout for Lucas, guys. He's coming up, and
He's gonna be okay.
we call him the kid,
We'll
but
say
he's
that.
he's not
the
kidding
kid,
around
dude.
about comedy. But we're all gonna work for him someday. I said, I was like, you ever check your pockets
Yep.
in the morning to find out what happened the night before? Like, what was Mr. Max doing at the
good time,
Omni
Charlie.
Hotel at 2:00 in the morning? Nothing good. And I pulled this out and I threw it to Lucas.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "I need that back, kid. That's a real hotel key." And don't ask, don't tell. But it made it real. It's like, is he joking around? No, he's serious. And it just gives it a little bit of that mystique and that mystery. Some of that, like, I don't want to call it Hollywood magic or movie magic, but there's something to it that people buy into that makes it more fun, more entertaining, a little more real, a little more visceral.
It's funny.
But I learned it from, not that I learned it from Dan Aykroyd, but when he hesitated to tell me, like, he almost didn't want to burst my bubble.
That's what I'm saying. So
He knew I loved
you
it.
just take that Bitcoin and get it behind Lucas's ear. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
I don't want to mess with Luke. But no, he's a good kid.
He's gonna be on
he's
soon,
a
too.
really good kid.
Lucas,
We'll get him on.
He's great.
Yeah,
We have to
shout
get him
out to
on one day.
Lucas and his dad. He's a bright, intelligent, and he's really funny young man. And
Yeah.
I think you should be on the lookout for him, America, because know the name. He's coming.
I definitely think
Big
he'll
time.
be okay. I tell him, I'm like, listen, you're gonna be all right. You could just tell. You know what I mean?
that's what I told him
definitely.
too. I said, just don't give up, man.
Yeah. Now, all right. Yeah. So, like, your writing style, okay.
I don't want to give up too much.
Yeah,
of it.
that's fine. And
Well,
then also,
actually, you gave a perfect peek behind the curtain. I
Yeah.
think that satisfies me and all the listeners without spilling the total tea.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That works for me. That's a great outlook,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that.
There's
Yeah.
no right or wrong way to be creative. It's like
I love how you said you prompt yourself.
sometimes I do to keep myself on track, and I give myself a checkup because I've been doing this about 6-7 months, and I gave myself a little checkup, and I said, don't ever stop writing, but you don't want to ramble, so give yourself some guidelines and parameters. For X amount of time that you have at different venues.
Yeah.
How much? Because at the beginning I was trying to beat the clock. I was trying to get everything in. And I was rushing and racing through stuff,
Yep.
and I wouldn't take a breath, and people making fun of me for it. But I didn't know any better. I was still learning this craft, and I said, you know what? You don't need to do that. There'll be time for that later. Write as much as you want, but learn how to edit. And then I would. I think Hemingway said you can write while you're drunk, but edit while you're sober. And when I edit, I'll do something that I thought was hilarious, and I'll record it.
Okay.
I'll watch the video after with the notes. I keep the highlights. I cut the fat, rinse, recycle, repeat.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not up here just rambling and anything that comes stream of consciousness. I've been called a run-on sentence. I've been called a paragraph with too many commas. I've been called autistic. I've been called an alcoholic. I've been called homeless. I've been called a lot of nice things by a lot of the nice people on our local comedy scene.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, if you're a
Vicious.
comic, I think you're just assumed to be autistic. right?
Savage. They're just
I've heard
savage.
people say
kidding.
that.
No, all comics are
Just
very
kidding.
happy, well-adjusted people. I
Yeah, definitely. We're
I
all
thought
on
we
our-
were all just
we're on
so
our
fine.
rocker.
I know,
We're fine.
Everything's fine. But it's like people see this and they're like, "Oh, it's a manifesto." And like, no, it's a notebook.
No,
And I don't know. I
exactly.
don't want to be up there with my phone, and because I'll drain the battery in 10 seconds. But you don't like something in here, you can throw it away. And what works, cool. If not, that's why pencils have erasers, man.
Yeah. And I think it shows too with like, if you guys come out and see Tony, which you definitely should, at the open mics, like Blue Moon, for example, he's always there. If you guys come out and see him, you'll see that, like, you're definitely dedicated. And I want to highlight this before we go on to the next thing. It's like, dude, I remember when I first started going to Touch Lounge, you were working on, which was it? It was a joke. I think it was the Trump one. And you were doing the voice, and you were working at it. You were writing it in your book, and I'm like, "Who's this guy? He's sitting by himself. He's reading his notebook. He comes up, and he's been doing this joke, the same joke for a couple weeks now." But the thing is, I noticed, because this is before I really got to know you, you were getting better and better, and then you did it without
Thank
your notebook. The whole from beginning to end, it was like a full 7-minute bit, and then Steve literally went up to you. He's like, "You knocked it out of the park. You did a great job." He's like, "You made it." He's like, "That was perfect." He's like, "You nailed it." And it was cool because I saw your process without like knowing I was watching you work your magic at the same time. You just, I was picking up on it piece by piece, and it was really cool. And I look back on like I watched you do it from the beginning to end, and that was really awesome. I'll never forget that.
Thank you.
That was
That
something
means
I
a lot.
noticed. You know what I mean? I was like, wow. So I see you do that, and if you guys go out and see Tony, you'll notice that too.
Thank you.
You're very dedicated, and
Well,
it shows in your comedy. And I think it's cool. You know?
I think you get out what you put in anything, and that the Beatles said, the love you take is equal to the love you make. It's like I'm not if I couldn't just get up there and wing it and just talk. I owe people better than that. I'm gonna waste my time, waste everybody else's time. It's like, and when I write, it's like a lot of times I will rehearse because I'm creating the content myself. Then I rehearse it, then I perform it, record it, edit it, and come back. What works, what doesn't, and doing something. I've seen, and again, I don't want to name anybody or single anybody out, but I've seen one particular comic do the same set 68 times. The same exact verbatim set. I'm like, you're still perfecting this? You haven't gotten the timing and the cadence down? You've done the exact same thing without changing a note 68 times? I wrote 3 sets in one night. I do things around the holidays. I was doing stuff for Halloween, Veterans Day, the election, things that are current, things that people can relate to, things that are happening in real life, in real time, that can help you stay fresh, help you stay hip, but also help you get better. Yeah. And, repetition is the mother of skill. The more you do it, Coach Corey Wayne said that. It's like, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. Yeah. And
that's
people,
what it is,
when I first started, they're like, it's a batting cage. And I gave those same words back to the comic that told me that. I said, well, you said it's a batting cage, so the more I get in the cage, the better I'm going to hit, right? I played baseball, and he's like, well, not necessarily. I'm like, yeah, well, time in the batting cage is not going to make you a worse hitter.
Yeah, if anything, it helps. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like,
you got to get your reps in.
Yeah, so I've seen you do that, and like even Rob, to kind of give him a shout out to, like, he's worked on jokes I've seen him do over and over, and it's a bit more personal because me and him, I see him on the weekends. Sometimes we'll workshop, and like I've seen him even go from like beginning to end. And it's cool to seeing you guys, whether it's Rob, you, or the comics out there, Eddie,
the progression.
Kyle, the progression. It's cool. You know what I mean?
And there's no right or wrong. I don't have the answers, and I'm not better than anybody or know any more than the next guy. And if you want to do the same thing 168 times, that's fine. But me personally, I think I'd get bored, or I'd maybe get tired of my own voice. Yeah. And I want to challenge myself. I want to be, it's a lifetime's worth of cultural absorbance where I grew up in the golden age of comedy.
Yeah, you were lucky to have that. Yeah, it's great.
Not only that, like, I grew up on the greats: Robin Williams, George Carlin, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Sam Kinison, Norm Macdonald, guys like Bill Hicks. And then when I hit it was like 95 or 96, South Park had just come on the air. I'm running back and forth, 13, 14 years old, going to Manhattan on a bus to go to Port Authority to get into Conan O'Brien's show and sneaking in. And after the 6th time I went, Conan was kind of like, what are you doing here, kid?
Yeah, right, noticed it.
And I kept going month after, and I would write and get free tickets. And and then Saturday Night Live in the 90s, Farley was still with us. And then my friends and I started discovering the older Saturday Night Live, the 70s stuff with Chevy and Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. Yep. So it's like, with all this influence and seeing these guys master this craft, and these guys are legends, and I'm not putting myself in that same category, but I feel a responsibility to do the best that I can with it and to be as creative as possible to make it as entertaining for people as possible. You know what I mean? And again, it gives you 5 minutes of joy and laughter in your life. Even if it's just amusement or entertainment, if you get some laughs, that's cool too. But, that's really my end goal, is there's no one to pick up that mantle and that legacy. Who's left that's going to carry that tradition on generationally from guys that are our age that grew up on that? I feel as though there's a void there that somebody's got to do this job.
Yeah, and I think
and Conan taught me that this is a job where people make a living at it.
People do. It's
not
crazy.
just talent behind the scenes. There's production. There's there's caterers. There's lighting and sound, and there's people that make a livelihood at this business. And Conan has been responsible for hundreds of people having a job. Yeah. That's a cool thing. And he told me, he's like, well, I used to write for The Simpsons, and I just dogged The Simpsons. I'm like, yeah, but you also went to Harvard. Yeah. And he's like, well, you don't have to go to Harvard, but because he was really kind to me too. And I'm 15 years old, and he's 6'4", and he's all orange, and he's as tall as Abraham Lincoln.
Orange, yeah.
Oh, he's as tall as Abraham Lincoln.
Well, I think
6'4".
Rob, I'll give Rob this one. He likes watching the old stuff. You know what I mean? Like Rob's always commenting on Eddie Murphy and stuff like that.
Nothing wrong
I
with the
didn't. So
classics.
it was funny. So we talk about classics, right? And Lenny Bruce came up, and I
You
talked
learn
to
a
this.
lot.
I talked to Eddie about this too. Eddie Marin. I had no idea that Lenny Bruce is put in prison for the shit he said.
Yes, and that's
which is fucking insanity.
And I'm glad you bring that up because, again, some of these guys were blacklisted. Some of these guys were in prison for profanity. Some of these guys lost their homes. Some of these guys went bankrupt. Richard Pryor was in prison for taxes. It's like you've been given, all these guys have struggled so hard to have freedom of speech. George Carlin, the 7 dirty words. And you're going to get up on that mic. I don't care if it's a show. I don't care if it's an open mic. I don't care if you're playing Vegas. I don't care if you're playing the Taj Mahal. It doesn't matter. Like, I feel a responsibility to be the best that I can be and to live up to that legacy because so many people came before us that worked so hard. And I mean, you guys see me up there doing dick and fart jokes.
No,
that's not my. It's not my style. It's just not. I feel as though you owe the audience more than that.
Yeah,
I feel it's a cheap shot.
Well,
I just think it was just wild to me when I obviously we got into me and Matt we got comedy like 6 months ago, not that long.
He was barred from performing in many different towns.
Well,
cities.
one of his shows,
yeah.
he was spitting profanity, whatever. The FBI, CIA, whatever. Yeah. They found out about his show. They snuck in just to wait to hear him say whatever shit, piss, fuck, blowjob, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they arrested his ass, and he got out of prison obviously, but when he died,
obscenity charges,
obscenity, which is fucking
same as the guy you have on the wall. Look at the man you have on the wall right next to you. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Who's that now?
That's Jim Morrison.
Yep. Correct.
One of the
Mr.
greatest
Morrison.
musicians of all time.
We're big Doors fans here.
So
my
brothers. Favorite band of all time. That was a random plug. Just want to put it.
That's how we were raised, by the way. It was
also arrested in Florida for obscenity charges.
Right. Which
and
so
if he had played it clean or not done his style,
he would have never broken the mold.
He never would have broken.
And that's what you're doing, Mr. Max.
We remember his
breaking
name.
the mold.
Thank you.
Break on through. I know where you're going with that.
Well, I don't want to. I'm not connecting myself to Morrison, but we remember his name. We know who he was. He was important. He left something behind.
Died at 27. He's on the 27 Club.
Just like Kurt, he left something behind that was bigger than him. To this day, if I hear Nirvana on the radio, hey Kurt.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means anything to anybody, but maybe somewhere, up there in the ether, wherever Kurt is, that maybe puts a little smile on his face because he gave us this incredible gift. He was the Bob Dylan of our generation, and it was a tragedy what happened to him, and Morrison as well. But these guys, they were bold, they were brave. Fortune favors the bold. You have to be brave. You can't half-ass it. You're going to do it, you're going to do it right. If Morrison had just, played it clean, played it safe, he wouldn't have been the lead singer of the Doors. He would have been, some mediocre one-hit wonder. Kurt was the same way. He lived it. This was his life. This wasn't... I think that the best people in their crafts are people who are genuine. This is who this person is. And for every Kurt, there's 20 guys that are going to imitate him. But the world finds those people. Mm-hmm. And they were those people before the world knew who they were. Like the guys in Guns N' Roses. The Wu-Tang Clan. They're a gang. They're mercenaries. Like they're a militia. And they don't... This isn't an act where they dressed up and they said, we're going to go pretend that we're this... This is their life. This is who they are from the time they were kids.
Correct.
You know what I mean? You can't... They'll say, oh, fake it until you make it. But I think people can sniff that out really quickly.
That's so funny that you say that, too. Like, I'm going way left field here.
That's
but
quite all right.
Look at rap music.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I love
we were talking about Biggie stuff. Wu-Tang. What were they rapping
Wu-Tang
about?
forever.
Right? Compare that to, I don't know, not every rap artist out there, but like compare that to, ass.
There was meaning behind.
It's like when I listen, like you like Big L, you like classic rap, right?
Of course.
Fucking Big
I
L
grew up in the 90s.
I
remember when.
Listen to his lyrics. Juxtapose that against some other asshole.
Well,
out
there was that
you know?
Wu-Tang song. It's called, I forget, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's called like the America's Dying or something like that. It's pretty much called talking about the AIDS epidemic and how I think, I don't know if it was Old Dirty, because I think Old Dirty died. I think he died because he got shot or whatever. But
Rest in peace,
like,
ODB.
yeah, it was talking about like how like people are dying of AIDS and stuff. And you listen to it, there's a lot of meaning to it. And honestly, that the rhythm and all that stuff was like really like it was deep, man.
I think the last modern rap artist to do anything like that was like Lupe Fiasco, bro.
Yeah,
I think I know where you're. I think I know where you're both kind of driving at. In the '90s, this was a form of much like comedy, this was a form of rebellion. This was a voice of the people. This was a dissent where people in the 90s, like KRS-One, I remember when both Biggie
Bro.
Smalls and Kurt Cobain were alive.
I love KRS. He's one of my favorite rappers.
You know
of all
what
time.
KRS-One means? It's an acronym.
I absolutely do know what it means. Yes.
Roger that. Well, guess again, America. We're not going to tell you. You're going to have to Google that.
Oh shit! We're not gonna spill the tea. All right, there you go.
These guys had something to say about the world that they lived in, the conditions they lived in, and what was going on. And Eazy had just died of AIDS. Magic had just come out, and it was awareness. People, you know, as a kid, I started hearing about this talk in school about safe sex and what HIV. And it was, if it had not been for hip hop, I don't think that conversation happens in America with a young age. People of a young age group, because it was taboo. They weren't allowed to give us condoms. They weren't allowed to even talk about it in health class until these guys brought it to the forefront, and they started talking about things that were real and things that were important, because we lost people through this. And like when Magic had to retire, the whole world was shocked. And then it was like, oh, this is something we have to pay attention to. And with those guys, you know, especially in hip hop, it was like they weren't faking. This wasn't an act. You know, a lot of what we do is performance art, and a lot of music's the same way. But there's a difference between, I think, a genuine article or a genuine artist who has something to offer, something to say to the world. You know, again, that mirror, holding it up to them and saying, "Look at this. This is what our life."
Yeah.
And
now you're saying that whether that goes for both comedy and music, right?
I believe so. I think they're very close. I mean, I have
it's a form of expression in a way in your writing.
Yeah, I mean, I have a musical background too with my family. Again, I alluded to it, but you know, I think there's a musicality and this timing, this rhythm, and this pacing. It's not
100%.
It's not the same. But I've heard Sandler talk about this, how on I think it was Rogan's podcast, that a lot of comics want to be musicians, and a lot of musicians want to be comics.
That's so funny you bring that up. I was just reading a book. I forget what book it is, but the comic who's writing the book, his dad was a professional jazz artist. And he said, growing up to be in jazz, he goes, I figured out quick that comedy has a rhythm. It has a beat. You got to go to the rhythm, you go to the beat, and that makes you successful. So much so, he would critique his own writing, his own comedic writing, his own sets he'd record, and find out. He'd clap the syllables.
Yeah.
He'd make sure one side of the syllables were weighted differently than the other side for the punchline. That's how granular he got between the music and the comedy, which is crazy. That's a really cool...
you asked about my writing process, and there are times when I write that some of it is very musical, and not just an impression of DMX or Biggie Smalls having a bake sale or whatever, but some of it, there is musicality. And you guys have both heard me sing sometimes on stage, or sing a punchline or sing a lyric, and you can take a peek here. When I'm going to do it, I'll give myself literally a musical note to tell myself in the set if I need to look down. And a lot of times I don't even use this.
Yeah.
I like having it. It's not a safety net. It's not a security blanket. But if I lose my place, I want to be professional, and I don't want to be up there. How many times do you hear comments, what else do I want to talk about? I'm kind of tired.
Tough.
This place is
I've
empty.
done that once or twice.
This place is empty. How much time do I have left? I want to look
How
down.
much time you got left is tough. That's a question. I'm like,
Very tough.
But I'll turn around and I'll say, "Oh, you guys want to hear Macho Man Randy Savage sing Sticks?
Yeah.
Well, you're gonna. Not now. You're gonna have to attend one of the events, and you might hear him too. But it's you've heard me do that, and it's like, you know, what Morrison, he's the lead singer of the Doors. He's really a writer.
Yeah.
You know, people say he was a poet. Ray Manzarek speaks of him as though he was a Greek poet, and there was a lot of poetry behind what he did. He wasn't a natural showman. Not everybody is. I think I am. I've been told that. You know, when I was in a band in high school trying to be, I was the lead singer. I'm the front man. It's like, I have no trouble with public speaking. I've done that my whole life since I was a child. When I was a kid, they'd ask me to read the announcements in school. They'd ask me to read in church. You know, I have no trouble going in front of a group. I public speak for a living, which some of those skills are applicable to this. And creative writing process, I take a lot of that stuff and apply it to the performance art aspect of it. And even Jim, they said he used to be shy on stage, and he would turn his back and just face the other doors and not look at the audience.
Live sets.
It took a while for him to get into it, and it's like there is a learning curve. And I think some people are harsh, and some people say, "I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing this for 5 years. I've been doing this." I don't think that really matters. I think everyone's different, and everyone's, like you said, the process and your progression. And you know, Morrison didn't start out in leather pants with his shirt off. Just rocking out. He had to grow into that or become comfortable in his own skin. And then he was able to achieve things with that group musically that he probably couldn't have done on his own, you know.
Well, you're definitely comfortable doing impressions, right? So,
thank you.
Kind of, to pretty much wrap it all up too, like with your, I really, before, we let things go, would you be open to doing? You don't have to do a cool, crazy impression. Give us like a 30-second impression or something like that. Like something you would do. You don't have to, but
this is not on the itinerary, man.
I know it's always
You're putting Tony Max on the spot.
I don't have to do anything crazy.
All right.
He's got this, dude. He's got this.
All right, who do you want to hear?
Oh man! Oh, where do we go? Where do we go?
I did Cartman for you before we off camera earlier.
He did. It was awesome.
I don't know. The Trump voice is funny.
We do a beautiful job. We do an amazing job. What a wonderful job. And I told you earlier. I think a lot of guys. Alec Baldwin beat him to death on SNL.
Yeah.
Shane Gillis does a terrific job. Yeah. What a wonderful job. But everybody told me. They all told me. Everyone said it couldn't be done. But we got it done, and we got it done very quickly. And there's a lot of hand gestures. A lot of guys are doing this. A lot of guys do this.
Yeah.
They think this is Trump.
Yeah.
They think this is Trump. He's not a chicken. He's not trying to take off. He does just. He has a lot of almost a benediction.
Hey, can I give you my Trump impression?
Of course.
China.
Yeah.
There you go. The end.
I like Tony's better. It's more.
I do like Tony's better. I can't do impressions to save my life.
Well, I appreciate you breaking out the little bit of impression.
I'm sorry, it's not better. I wasn't prepared to do that. But...
No, I put you on the spot. Sorry, but if you guys want to see more of that, you guys gotta come out and see Tony. So my next question.
He doesn't mean DMX too, by the way. Just saying.
Max gonna give it to you.
Yep. Make sure you guys come out and see him do his impressions. And like I said, he's not a prop comic. We're all label or anything like that, but he's got a little bit of everything for somebody. He's got a little bit of something for everybody.
Thank you. That means a lot. I like to be well-rounded because I don't want to isolate anyone in the audience, or I don't want to I like to try to give people as much as I can. And again, that line of how much of myself I'm willing to give.
Yeah.
That's up to me.
Yeah.
And, if I'm feeling it or I feel as though it's not that I'll do an impression when I feel as though it's relevant to what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because I'm not just going to, there are other guys that do that. There are certain guys that are brilliant mimics. Mm-hmm. Dana Carvey, for example. Dana can do anybody.
Yeah.
Turtle.
He's brilliant. Yeah. But, it has to be relative to, it's taken out of context. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. But I think it's there for a dramatic effect.
Yeah.
I'm not just up there trying to get cheap laughs by, and again, Shane Gillis does Trump. A lot of guys do Trump. So, and I don't want to be stale and be trying to,
yours is different.
Ripping off somebody. Thank you.
Yours is not I don't feel like you're trying to make a political statement. I think you're just trying to do it to be funny. You keep it neutral. So I do appreciate you, using that, just doing that a little bit so people that are going to watch this and hear it can see it because it's funny. You know what I mean? But the
trick, I've told you off, so I'll tell you now on the trick to what I do is I take it's a little Cuckoo Chew, it's a little Stewie Griffin, and a little Michael Jackson, and you mix them all up, and that's how you get Donald Trump. Mm-hmm.
There you go.
You know what your problem is, Brian?
Yes. That's good.
That's Stewie.
Yeah. I close my eyes. I'm watching Family Guy right now.
You know what else, Roy Boys? Let me tell you, I'm so happy to be here. It's a little bit higher. That's Michael Jackson, right? So when you put them together and you do such a wonderful job, like Melania, what a classy first lady. She's so classy. She's so beautiful. We do such a wonderful job. It's a little Stewie. It's a little MJ. I might be off base here. I'm not sure. I don't know. That's what everybody told me, and he's a brilliant guy. Both of you guys, you're so wonderful. We're going to get you on our team with Elon. Oh, we love Elon. He's a wonderful guy. He's a bright guy, very handsome, very good-looking guy. Yeah, it's like Joe Rogan.
So it's a little bit of everything. But
all hail the mighty Joe Rogan.
It's all Tony Max. It's all his stuff. And I'll end it with this. I really want to highlight before we go. So because I'm talking about we're doing your impression. We're talking about all of this stuff about your comedy, and anybody that wants to see Tony Max, if they want to see you perform, where can they see you, and how can people find you?
Okay, thank you for.
We'll close it out with that.
That's the biggest question of the night.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked me that. Well, I would like to thank a few people, if I may.
Yeah,
I know I'm not winning an award here. This is not the.
No, we want you to. No, this is the time.
All the shout outs, all the plugs.
Thank you. Well, I would like to thank Steven D'Annunzio for everything he's done for me. Steven's a bright guy. He's a wonderful man, and he's given me a lot of guidance and advice.
Sure is.
And he's really looked out for me in comedy, as well as John Perrotta and the entire Comedy Factory. John Imperator on the Sauce Comedy.
Guy.
He's a good kid with a good heart, and he's tried to help me.
Big fans of him.
He's tried to give me some advice, and he's tried to help me whether I wanted to listen to him or not. And he's been very kind to me. Also, there are three guys who they're comedic killers. They're professionals. One of them was there my first night I ever did it, and he brought me up, and that's Aaron Lidecker.
Yes. Big
Okay.
shout out to him.
Also,
Yes.
Ari Shields.
Mm-hmm.
He's brilliant. These guys are professionals, but they're comedic killers. And Alan Moreau. Also, Dee Conley.
Yep.
Dee
Shout
Conley's
out to
been like
Dee.
she's been like a big sister to me in comedy,
Yep.
and I think she's our modern day Lucia Ball. She doesn't like when I say that, but I think it's true. She does a great job at the Detour, which
Yeah,
is you can
shout
always
out to
you
her.
can always see me
100%. Great show.
It's the Detour, that it's her annual event. It's a traveling open mic. I try to get into that as much as I can. I want to thank both of you guys for having me.
Of course, man.
Jimmy Roy, who's a friend
Anytime.
in the comedic world, and also I want to give a quick shout out to CJ Perrone, my social media director, who is good at things that I'm not good at. CJ does an amazing job, what a wonderful job. But
The best job.
CJ, he
the
studied under a good friend of mine I went to high school with, who's
That's awesome,
was a
man.
RISD professor now, and I don't want to bring his name into this, but you can find CJ at cjphotography.squarespace.com or cjphotographyri@gmail.com. And CJ is wonderful with film, videography, photography. He's a brilliant kid. He's very talented. And again, he's helped me a lot in the tech aspect of things. Sort of like Elon. He's sort of like my tech support.
Yeah.
But he's much.
big
But he's
Elon.
much. But CJ's much more than that. I wouldn't be here without
Tech
CJ,
support.
and I wouldn't be able
There you
to
go.
plug my next thing. That you can find me at. You can go to visit my website.
And you can see it in the description.
Yep.
That's right. It's Tony Max Comedy, one word, .squarespace.com. I didn't want to pay the extra money to get rid of the Squarespace.
Understood. I totally get that.
Or you can even email me directly at TonyMaxComedy, one word, @gmail.com. That's right. TonyMaxComedy.squarespace.com for the website, where there's gonna be more coming. And right now we did a soft launch, but there's gonna be links to social media, some video clips, and then I'll be posting where I'll be performing. And you can contact yours truly directly if you're so inclined at Tony Max Comedy, again, one word, @gmail.com. As far as seeing me perform live right now, I perform as often as I can, and I do double up, and it's at least 3, if not 4, if not 5 times a week. You will find me at Pub on Park on Monday nights. You will find me on Wednesdays we used to do at the former venue, the Touch Lounge, which has now been moved to the Blue Moon Pub, Park Avenue in Cranston. Also, I used to do a venue that I used to love because it was the old Century Lounge on Chestnut Street, Askew in Providence, on Tuesday nights. On Thursdays, you can find me at Jake and Johnny's in the heart of Federal Hill in downtown Providence on Atwells Avenue. One of the best open mics with a great young local college crowd.
Yep.
Friday nights, it's John Imperator's night with On the Sauce Comedy in Bristol at the Kinsman Tavern, where you'll find another nice, beautiful audience, wonderful crowd, young people, good times, nice little spot. And, I do have a good job, so weekends are pretty full. I have a job, I have a family, I have a lot of responsibilities, things I'm juggling. But there will be more performances to come. I do have some hosting gigs coming up, one towards the end of May, and then I believe in July I'll be hosting again for Comedy Factory RI for John
Awesome.
Parada.
Yeah, man. It's
great to
It's
hear.
going to be
It's
July, I want to say 26th. I'll post this on the website once I lock in the dates. And once again, I believe in October. Which I'm really excited to do because hosting was really fun for me.
It is a lot of fun.
And I think it played to my strengths and my skill sets.
Yep.
People tell me, oh, you're a throwback to the old late night talk show hosts.
Yes.
And the old SNL and not the Carson, but Letterman. Like I used to love Letterman with his top 10 list. And obviously Conan, and even now, like when I say who's left, like Conan went to TBS. Letterman retired. Late night comedy, it's not what it used to be.
No.
Man, we used to watch, me and my wife used to watch Conan like every night, dude.
It was brilliant.
It was a good time.
With Robert Smigel's Insult the Comic Dog, the Insult Comic Dog, and I used to love Smigel when he did his the animated stuff for Lauren when he did on Saturday Night Live, and Andy Richter was great, and I used to really enjoy Max Weinberg and the Max Weinberg 7. Shout out to Max Weinberg. He's the drummer for the E Street Band, by the way. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool.
You can find me basically check my website.
Yeah.
Email me. You can, or just come and find me in real life.
Yeah. Come out to the open mics, support comedy,
Absolutely,
support
come
Tony, support all
It'd be
the local
nice.
comics.
I'd be happy to entertain you guys.
Check out his website. We'll also mention it
Links
in
the
our
description.
video in our description. If
Thank
you guys,
you very much.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, Tony, email him, message us. And yeah, man, we're looking forward to performing with you on Wednesday. I'll be there.
It's always a pleasure.
At Blue Moon, of course. And we're going to be at Blue Moon with Eddie Marin. He's back in town.
Eddie's
Kyle
great.
Cody. We're all going to be there hanging out. And
The crew, baby.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jonathan Rollins too, who's always on the
he's
scene.
hilarious.
Jay Rollins is always out there.
He's a killer.
Fucking funny as
He's
shit.
a killer.
Rob's Bananas
Him and
looking.
Tajay there.
Dude,
Good
your
times.
banana's looking way more
Dude,
brown than it
look,
was. when
it's
we first
brown where my
started.
hand was.
Well, if you boys are going to start comparing bananas,
We should
it might
probably
be
kick
time
it
for
off
me to go.
before-
I'm actually gonna peel and eat it after
Yeah.
we're done tonight.
All right,
my
guys.
gosh.
Well, thanks for tuning in.
And I'm gonna look at them both in
Yes.
the eyes while I'm doing it.
Thank
It was
you
a bit
very
of
much.
A longer episode, but it was a good one. And
Sorry
we
about
great
the
were-
length.
episode.
Did I go
Honestly,
long? Did I go for
I
on
have no
time?
idea, but it was a lot of fun.
Not at
I'm
all.
trying to highlight. It was a longer episode, but there's a lot of good content here. And I hope you guys watch all of it and listen to all of it.
Me
Give us some
too.
Feedback.
100% worth it.
Because Tony's great. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me, and thank
Appreciate
you
it,
for
Tony.
watching. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Appreciate it.
That's it, guys.
All right. Later.
See ya.